and welcome to another episode of Sleep and Relax ASMR. Back by popular request today is useless facts, and since it's November, I figured we'd do some useless autumn or fall facts, and I considered doing winter facts, but maybe I'll just save that for December, January. Either way, let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. I'm gonna start getting some background noise flowing in, and hope you guys enjoy. Autumn fact number 1. Americans typically refer to this time of year as fall, while British use the word autumn. Both terms date back to the 16th century, but before that it was called harvest. I'm also pretty sure in Canada they use autumn instead of fall, but that's a nice sort of opening fact, let's say. Let's find another one here. Next fact. Fall was called harvest because of the harvest moon that occurs when the full moon is closest to the autumn equinox. Before man-made lighting, this moonlight was essential to a prosperous harvest. Fact number 3. Weight gain around this time of year may not only be due to comforting fall foods like pumpkin pie and cider. Researchers have found that lack of vitamin D reduces fat breakdown and triggers fat storage. So, you at least have an excuse after fall, a scientific reason why you let all that food get to you. I mean, I'm guilty of it, so please don't take that as being offensive, because I am, every time of year, around this time of year, I mean, always fluctuating weight. But I digress. Next fact. According to the Weather Channel, pumpkins are the most craved food during the fall. Although if you've left the house anytime recently, this may not come as a surprise to you. So it's kind of just like a cheeky little joke by this website that I'm reading off of. But anyway, it's called Useless Facts. I'm providing some useless facts here. The next one. Let's see. I like this next one. Red and purple leaves are only that color because of the presence of sugars and sap that are trapped within the leaves. These sugars provide plants with the energy they need to survive. So, kind of just like a cute leaf fall autumn fact. Let's see. The amount of chlorophyll. I think we're at number 6, by the way. Number 6 or number 7. Frankly, I've lost count. I apologize. But the amount of chlorophyll starts to decrease as the sun weakens and the days grow shorter in the fall, which leads to the yellow and orange colors you see in leaves. So as sunlight weakens and days grow shorter, the chlorophyll, the abundance of chlorophyll, of green chlorophyll, or the green from chlorophyll, I should say, decreases, which means the leaves start to turn that beautiful, yellow and orange colors. Let's see what other facts. So the next fact. Many birds will prepare for their winter migration distance they can travel is impressive. The Arctic tern travels 11,000 miles each way for its annual migration. I've never heard of the Arctic tern, and I would have never guessed that they traveled 11,000. Think about that. That's 11. I mean, that's 11,000 miles. That is such a terribly long distance. That's very impressive. Impressive fall facts is maybe what I should call this episode. But once again, I digress. Let's see which. Trying to see what other facts I can pick from here. Evergreen trees such as pines, cedars, and spruces stay green because their leaves are covered with thick wax, and they contain materials that prevent freezing when it gets cold. So that's why they, I guess, don't lose their color and don't really lose any of their leaves either, or needles. I find this next one very interesting. Men and women experience high levels of testosterone during the fall. I said that right. I mean, men and women experience high levels of testosterone during the fall. This makes sense because more babies are conceived during the fall and winter. The cause is unknown, but it could be due to lack of sunlight or even go back to ancient mating rituals. I'm not sure how accurate these facts are. I don't know how accurate this fact in particular is, but I mean, that's pretty interesting. The fact that both men and women would have higher levels of testosterone during the fall, and that it could just be attributed to our, ancestors and their mating habits. You learn something new every day. Next fact, related to Halloween, of course. Halloween takes place in the fall and comes from ancient Celtic tradition, or Celtic tradition, depending on how you pronounce it. Anyway, they believed that ghosts roamed on Halloween and people would wear disguises in order to hide from these spirits. I imagine we'll probably have a couple more Halloween-related facts throughout the episode. Let's see. So the next fact, which will probably resonate a lot with my listeners in Central and South America, which the show has a surprising amount of, so I want to thank you guys. Muchas gracias for listening. But those who live closest to the equator never experience the season of autumn. Around the equator, the temperature remains consistently warm, and I can attest to this. I lived in Costa Rica for a very long time, and in Costa Rica, really, it was really just wet season and dry season. There was no, fall, winter, spring, and certainly no change dramatically of temperature and the season. You wouldn't see it really in the leaves or anything like that. Let's see what else I can find. Contrary to popular belief, squirrels who have spent the entire autumn collecting acorns and other foods do not hibernate for the winter. Rather, they spend the majority of their time in nests they built to shelter them away from harsh weather. When the squirrels do come out in winter, they are usually tunneling under the snow to find the food they buried during the fall. So that's a really cute little fact about a really cute little animal. And I had absolutely no idea. I just assumed that squirrels would hibernate I suppose autumn is really, or fall is really the most important time of year for them, because this is when they prepare for winter, right? So that's a cool little fact. Let's see what else I can find on here. Let's see. The pumpkin was first named by the Greeks. They called pumpkins the pepon, which means large melon. I do not speak Greek, and I have no idea if I said that correctly. If I didn't, and my Greek listeners want to call me out on it, just send me an email to sleepandrelaxasmr@gmail.com, and I will be glad to make a note of it for the next episode. But on we move. According to NASA, autumn is aurora season because geomagnetic storms are about twice as frequent as the annual average during the fall. So that's a cool little science fact there. Let's see, which other? So next one. Scientists believe males evolved to be sexually primed by food, which made autumn's harvest time an ideal time to find a mate and reproduce. In fact, studies show that a mix of pumpkin pie and donuts increased penile flow by 20%. A pumpkin pie lavender mix increased penile blood flow by 40%. So I read a fact related to the increased testosterone in men and women during this time of year. Maybe it is indeed linked to, our ancestors choosing this time of year to reproduce. That's a pretty cool fact, actually. There have been some really good ones on this list. Let's see what else I can find here. Animals and plants respond to the light changes associated with autumn. For example, each autumn, the male Siberian hamster's testes swell up to 17 times bigger than normal to prepare for mating. I didn't read that fact before. I don't know. I probably wouldn't have read it had I read it one time before. Very cool fact. Not sure how much you guys appreciate learning that. I think it's pretty cool. Let me see if I can move past these penile flow and testes related facts for autumn here. The term equinox is from Latin meaning equal night. So a non-sexual organ or reproducing fact to break us away from that theme. Let's see. Autumn begins when the center of the sun crosses Earth's equator. As Earth continues its path around the sun, days become shorter and nights become longer, with the change most noticeable for those at higher latitudes. So, more like common knowledge, I think, but still worth a read. Most meteorologists define autumn as lasting through September, October, and November in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, autumn lasts through March, April, and May. Specifically in New Zealand and Australia, autumn officially begins on March 1st and ends on May 31st. Which that thing is, like, that is for me very interesting, how the northern hemisphere will experience weather and seasons so much different or so differently than in the southern hemispheres, or southern hemisphere, I should say. Also, I apologize if you guys hear any background noise. I've been getting very unlucky today with recording. I always record at night just so that way I can avoid all this noise, and for some reason on random apologize if you guys can hear it. I hope it's not ruining the episode for you. Moving along here, let's see what else I can find. Swedish researchers found that women lose more hair in the fall. The pattern is thought to be a result of evolution. Women hold on to their hair during the summer to protect the scalp against the midday sun. Additionally, hair cells are the second fastest growing cells in the body after bone marrow and are sensitive to environmental disruptions such as seasonal changes. I'm obviously not a female. I'd be interested in hearing from my female listeners about how much seasonal change actually affect their hair growth or loss, which I've heard of, but I didn't think or I didn't know it could be so severe or such a drastic change, let's say. The word harvest comes from the Old Norse word haust, which means to gather or pluck. As people moved to the cities, harvest fell out of use, and city dwellers began to use fall of the leaf, which was shortened to fall to describe the change in season. So that's cool. That's a nice one. I find this next one very funny. I like this one a lot. According to seasonal patterns of relationships in Facebook profiles, autumn is the time when more singles change their status to in a relationship or engaged than the yearly average. More breakups occur during the summertime, which is, it's almost predictable. It's summertime, everyone wants to party, but to have, Facebook come up with the data and actually look into it, I find to be very amusing. So there you go. Autumn is the time to fall in love, I suppose. Or at least to change your Facebook profile to from single to in a relationship. This next fact sort of ties in with a previous fact I mentioned in this episode. During the spring and summer, most people eat more carbs. However, they develop a tendency for fattier foods in the autumn, which leads to seasonal weight gain. Once again, if you experience some seasonal weight gain, you have some scientific proof and reasoning as to why it happened. Autumn babies, or those born between September and November, are more likely to live to 100 than those who were born in other times of the year. I had no idea about that, and I'm just wondering why someone born between between September and November would be more likely to live to 100 than, say, someone born any other time of the year. But anyway, that's a cool fact to know. Let's see. So this next one, again, not sure how legitimate it is, but athletic children are more likely to be born in autumn and winter months. Those born in the spring were most sluggish. I have absolutely no idea where they're getting this research from. I don't know how legitimate that is. I know someone who was born in the winter season, and that person might be the laziest person I know. I went to school with him, but so maybe that is true. I'm thinking right off the top of my head, I know someone who meets that description of winter baby being lazy, but anyway, not gonna call out any names, and we're just gonna find a couple more to read for this episode. Let's see. This next one is my kind of fact. Oktoberfest in Munich, Germany takes place each autumn. The festival began as part of a crown prince's wedding celebrations in 1810 and has continued since. About 1.3 million gallons or 5 million liters of beer are poured during the festival. Love experienced Oktoberfest in Germany. Would absolutely love to try that one day. Or 1 year, just going and checking that out. Let's see, I'll do 1 or 2 more. According to superstition, catching leaves in autumn brings good luck. Every leaf means a lucky month next year. I would love to know, like, how scientifically accurate that is. I mean, there's no way of proving that. I would assume. But, anyway, sometimes you just gotta, close your eyes, believe in some superstition, and see what happens. I'm all for it. Let's see, one related to Halloween. So, originally, you had to dance for your treat. Most experts trace trick-or-treating to the European practice of mumming or guising, in which costume-wearing participants would go door-to-door performing choreographed dances, songs, and plays in exchange for treats. That is amazing. Could you imagine having to dance in order to, like, just get a Snickers bar or something? How crazy is that? I'll do... Alright, one more Halloween fact, and I think I'll wrap up the episode. Halloween is more Irish than St. Patrick's Day, and I will read this little excerpt here. Halloween's origins come from a Celtic festival for the dead called Samhain. Samhain, that's the name of the festival. Celts believed the ghosts of the dead roamed Earth on this holiday, so people would dress in costumes and leave treats out in their front doors to appease the roaming spirits. St. Patrick's Day was basically invented in America by Irish Americans, and then they have some research there and some, notes that I'm not going to go into. But that's kind of wild if you think about it. That Halloween would be, I guess, technically more Irish than St. Patty's Day. That's pretty cool. That's a nice fact to end on. Anyway, guys, as always, I really want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen. The show the last few weeks has really seen a huge bump in downloads from around the world. I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any suggestions or want to get in touch, you can send me an email to sleepandrelaxasmr@gmail.com. If you're confused about spelling,